Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Innovators in Commerce Delivery. I'm your host, Jamie Cairns. I'm the CSO at Fluent Commerce, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Angus McDonald. Angus is the CEO at a fantastic Aussie retailer, Barbeques Galore. Welcome, Angus.
G'day, Jamie. It's great to be here today.
I'm sure lots of people know you and know Barbeques Galore, but for those that don't, it might be helpful if you could give us a bit of an intro, a bit of a background to yourself, to the company, and kind of how you see commerce and delivery in 2024.
Yeah, well, thanks, Jamie. And maybe just starting off with a little bit of background about Barbeques Galore. So we are Australia's largest specialist retailer of barbecues and backyard lifestyle products. The business has been around since 1977, so a really long history in Australia and a very well-recognised brand in this market, with a network of 90 stores around Australia and a pretty strong e-commerce presence as well. And we're in every state and territory of Australia. And within our stores, obviously barbecues, of course, but quite a range of other products that fit around that: accessories, fuel, consumables, outdoor furniture, and a number of other products that are really all about helping to assist our customers in barbecuing better and really enjoying that great Australian backyard barbecue lifestyle. Just for me quickly, so I've been a retailer for 25 years now and have been the CEO here at Barbeques Galore since 2019.
Fabulous. Well, I think we've got a lot of interesting things we could talk about today. I am particularly taken by a way that you described yourself, if you don't mind me indulging that just a second. You said you're a student of retail, which I think is a fabulous way to approach life. You know, a lot of people see that the CEO as being the top of the tree. Your passion for continued learning, I think, is something that others can be inspired by. How do you go about doing that? What are the ways in which you get out of what could be considered to be an ivory tower and get out and see what's out there, and how you keep pushing your own brand forward?
Well, it's a good way to start the conversation because in retail, your work is never done. There's always more to be done. There's always more to learn. And it's a pretty dynamic environment. And that's part of what I love about being a retailer, is how quick things change and how quick things can move. And so that really requires a pretty active interest in, what's new and where some of the innovation is coming in, not just in our own category, but in all forms of retail. And so you tend to find yourself really following the news around anything you see happening in retail, both here in Australia, but also around the world. And one of the things I love doing is not just getting out and visiting my own stores, and I tend to do that as much as I reasonably can, but actually also getting out and seeing, obviously, our competitors' stores, but also really a quite wide variety of different retail stores offer a range of categories. And particularly when we travel, and one of the things, I guess, about being a retailer that imports most of the product that it sells, we do tend to do a bit of travel, both to where we manufacture our products in Asia, but also in Europe and North America, where many of our suppliers are based. And so one of the great advantages of getting over there from time to time to meet with those suppliers is also spending as much time as we can out visiting retail stores and touring retail stores around the world. And so, just most recently, I was over in North America in the United States, catching up with a couple of our suppliers. And so we spent a few days in LA getting out and visiting as many retail stores as we possibly could. And again, through the usual places, the sort of areas that you'd find people selling barbecues, but also really quite a wide range of retail stores and different categories. And we always learn a lot from getting out and doing that. And whether that's just innovation in terms of the retail experience itself, or where we're seeing new categories and new products emerging that might appeal to our customer, but really even getting into the granular detail of, point of sale material and merchandising, and just really generally how people are thinking about the delivery of a really high involvement, high engagement retail experience.
I'm interested, Angus, on in your case, as a category specialist retailer, you have your own competitive environment here, and your constant raison d'etre to distinctively and clearly differentiate yourself from competition here. How does that compare to some of the markets that you've traveled to and visited? Is it a similar sort of a dynamic? And it's a bit hackneyed, the old phrase about, certain countries ahead of another country or something like that. So I don't really want to push that narrative at all. But do you have any kind of nuances that you've observed that might be interesting for folks?
Well, one thing that's interesting about our category is our business really is unique in the world. There are certainly other specialist barbecue and backyard lifestyle retailers like us in other countries, and certainly in places like Germany and North America and even Canada, there are businesses that are similar to ours, but few of them have the scale that our business does. And so with a 90-store network around Australia, that does make us pretty unique. And so while we certainly look in our own category for inspiration, that does lead us to look to other categories and look to places outside of our own backyard in terms of where we can look for best practice and for innovation and ideas. And again, as you mentioned, Jamie, we think about our role as a category specialist to be looking to really establish a position of leadership and innovating in our retail experience and how we bring that to life. And so whether that's, with the stores that we would get out and visit. When I was in Canada actually recently, I went to a Lululemon store. We're in, Restoration Hardware. We're in all sorts of different homeware stores, looking at just how people are executing those high involvement, high engagement type categories, and how, particularly where people are speaking to a highly engaged customer, that's where we tend to learn a lot. But I think it's important to say that we're not just looking at other barbecue and outdoor stores.
Yeah, great. I love that. I think in all aspects of life, taking inspiration from sometimes related, sometimes unrelated industries, concepts, or people, I think really broadens the mind and brings your perspective to the fore and allows you to create your own points of view. And I think you're doing fabulous things with your stores and the updated store fit outs that we've seen. So clearly some of that inspiration is really working creatively for you. In the market that you operate here, consumers, like in every category, have choice. What is it about Barbeques Galore that you really want folks to identify with, to get them to shop with you? Because 90 is a great network. There are lots of other competing brands that might have bigger networks or a bigger range. How do you see your point of difference there?
Well, the very essence of our brand at Barbeques Galore is we are all about helping our customers to barbecue better. And if you care about barbecuing better, then we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to bring together the right range, the knowledge, the right brands, and the right value to help you really enjoy that experience. As a brand, our purpose statement is bringing people together around the flame. And that's because we recognize that our category has this really unique role where, as humans, for thousands of years, we've gathered around fire to enjoy a meal, to connect, to build relationships and connections and exchange in a very human way. And what we do, the product we sell, is in a very modern way, all about enabling people to create that experience in their homes. And so we're very much looking to those people that are very passionate about that are passionate about their cooking and are looking for that next level experience. And so that is really how we think about getting people to drive past one of our competitors' stores and come into one of our stores and speak to one of our expert team members who are there to help you bring that experience to life and find the right product and the right solution for you.
I love the way you describe it in such human terms, Angus. It's clearly a passion of yours and a passion of your brand to really connect with people and bring people together, which might lead the uninitiated to feel like, the way that you would run the business is on this touchy-feely, gut feel style. It couldn't be further from the truth, right? I mean, it's 2024. You guys are going to be deep in the data. How do you see that kind of marriage of data and creativity and art and science in your decision making?
Well, I guess that's one of the great things about being a retailer. And when you're running a retail business, generally you tend to collect a lot of data, a lot of information across every one of your stores, the data you're collecting online in terms of the insights about what's working, what's not working. And so we're very, very focused on how we can really utilize that information and those insights to help us make better decisions faster. And so for me, I'm a bit of a data nerd. I love getting into the weeds of the data and trawling through that and what sort of insights that we can draw from that. And so, when we've been doing things in our business, investing in, putting platforms like Power BI in to really unlock the value that data has within it. And so we're very much focused on doing that. But at the same time also, you're looking for those areas of inspiration that maybe are not always readily available and readily there. And so we're not just looking at our own internal data. We're doing, regularly doing market research to try and get a really good gauge on what's coming through from different segments. And then, of course, also making sure we're talking to our customers as well. And, NPS surveys and all those sorts of things provide some really, really valuable insight about where those opportunities exist in the business. I guess as a leader, though, the challenge always is how do you try and take those masses of data and all of that information and really distill it down to some key actionable outcomes. And that's something that I really think is important as a CEO, is how do you really translate that into something that's actionable? And the way we sort of describe that is making the complex simple and making the simple compelling.
Fantastic. I think that's a great takeaway for folks. And I'm really interested in, you mentioned a tool in Power BI. There's just such a plethora of tools available today, flashy front end gizmos, new tools for pretty much all aspects of business. How do you view kind of your organization's adoption of technology? How do you look at quantifying value in that area, and what you should be investing in and what not? How do you go about doing that?
Well, it's a really interesting question because we've actually been through a pretty significant period of change in our organisation in that space. And over the past 5 years, we've invested pretty significantly in our technology stack. And that's everything from implementing a new ERP system through to a number of other platforms. We've put in a new e-commerce platform, new CRM, an order management platform with Fluent, and a number of other key parts of our tech stack, which we've gone through and renewed over the last 4 or 5 years. And that's been really necessary, I would say, in part to address a bit of a technology debt where perhaps in the years preceding that, we'd probably underinvested in that space. So some of that has certainly been catch up. But we are definitely getting to a place now where, as we're looking forward, we're starting to think around corners a little more about, what new capability we're able to unlock. We're doing some work looking at how we can more actively embrace things like AI in our business and have developed an AI roadmap. So we're certainly thinking ahead about what our capability requirements are, both in terms of productivity for our team and how we can enrich the experience for our customers. Ultimately, though, when we're making those decisions, it does all come back to really being disciplined around making sure we're standing up a credible, compelling business case to support that. And one of the challenges is when you're making capital investment decisions is that the only guarantee out of any business case that you approve is that you will definitely spend the money. Whether you actually get the return that's expected, that's a lot more tricky to navigate. And so we tend to really focus on how we can test things and, apply a bit of that lean startup thinking around how we can validate some of our assumptions and try on a small scale to really build up the data points we're using in a business case. And then once we're confident that that opportunity actually exists, then we'll go through the process of really squaring away a longer plan. And then the other piece, of course, is also making sure you're picking the right partners to work with. So it's not just about the commercials. But when I say partners, I mean also the technology itself, but almost more importantly, even the SI that you work with in terms of implementing that. And I think we've been very lucky actually over the last couple of years that I'd say we've gotten that right more times than we've gotten wrong. And we've had some great partners that have really helped us over this time to deliver some pretty important improvements in capability for our business.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, as all the listeners will know, I work for and represent a software company, and we're nothing without our systems integration partners as well. The technology itself is an enabler, but the way it's brought to life is through those partnerships between ourselves, our people, utilizing our technology with our integration partners and with our customers. We actually see a great deal of the innovation that comes into Fluent as a business as a result of innovation done in conjunction with our customers. So it sounds like you have spent the last few years investing in that foundational platform, which allows you to then innovate and incrementally improve over time. Is that a fair statement?
Well, absolutely. And as a high involvement category, this is where people who shop at Barbeques Galore, they're not buying a new pair of socks or a packet of laundry powder. They're spending a decent amount of money on something that's going to be important for their lifestyle and in their homes. And so these are generally more carefully taken decisions. And it's typically a decent investment for people in their household. Most families, if they're spending $500 or $1,000 on anything, it's a big deal. And so they want to make sure that they get that right. And they're typically doing lots of research and lots of preparation before they finally make that decision to transact online or walk into one of our stores. And so the integration of those different touch points of our brand is never more important in those scenarios. And so if a customer's looking at something on our website and they're checking inventory availability, for example, and then they get in their car and drive to the store to either pick up a click and collect order or because they intend to purchase a product that they want to go home and cook on tonight, if we're telling the customer that item's in stock online, it better actually be there. And so a big part of the work that we've done, and the work we've done with Fluent's a great example, getting that plumbing right under the surface so that we can deliver that truly integrated omnichannel experience has very much been at the center of our thinking around how we've invested in technology and how that's supported the delivery of our experience across all channels for our brand.
Thanks for the Fluent plug. It's something we're very proud to do. It's very much core to what we do. That being able to set real, trusted, compelling promises for your customers that you can follow through on. So appreciate the name check. I am interested in, you said those omni-channel experiences, and Barbeques Galore is a great example of a leading omni-channel retailer. I think you most certainly get it right more than you get it wrong. How do you go about, as a leader in the business, maybe a bit of organizational design or culture to how you are able to construct those experiences that really do resonate with your customer base?
Well, I guess the part of what we're talking about here is it inevitably brings a lot of complexity into your organization. And so something which we spend a lot of time thinking about is how we can make sure in amongst all of that we're able to provide a really clear, unifying, guiding strategy for our people to be able to deliver against. And so as we've got all of these different parts of our organization working on trying to deliver this great experience for our customers, having that singular unifying strategy is really important. And I would say as a CEO, probably what I spend most of my time doing is getting around, speaking to team members in our stores, speaking to team members here in our support office, speaking to our trading partners and suppliers, and regularly reinforcing and reconfirming and re-explaining our strategy and our direction and our priorities. And it is one of those examples where only by the time you're sick of saying it are people beginning to hear it. That constant reaffirmation and clarity of the direction of where we want to take our organisation is something that I've found to be really important to help our people as they navigate, some of those really complex areas in trying to deliver such a rich experience for our customers. So that's something which I've really focused on quite actively. And then, bringing that to life with our team inside the organisation is how do we then work to make sure that the things that people are doing every day, that they can correlate that back to supporting us in the delivery of that strategy. So when I walk up to someone's desk as I'm out wandering around the floor of the office in the morning, checking in with everybody, that we can have a conversation with, one of the people in the planning team and talk about how that supports the delivery of our target for new product development and why that's so important in terms of the context of our overarching strategy, that we're constantly looking for those opportunities to reaffirm and demonstrate how those little jobs that people are doing every day, how they actually do ladder up and support us in the delivery of that overarching strategy.
Like I know from my previous conversations with you, and again from now, I'm learning, because that communication, I think, as you said, only as you become sick of saying it, are people starting to hear it. Reminds me, A, of being a parent, but B, of where I can improve myself in my leadership, in my organization, because it's definitely an area that I think is underappreciated, that the necessity to repeatedly reaffirm and reconfirm and clarify for folks. It's that's a definite takeaway for me. I am. If we go a bit tactical just for a second, Angus, because I know you like to be in the detail. I completely understand the type of purchase that your customers are considering when they're researching your type of product set. I'm currently doing the same, and I've been at it for 9 months, because you typically don't make an impulse decision around these things when you're making reasonable investments. That means that I reckon I've done a fair amount of research, and I probably know a fair amount about the products I want to go and buy. I'll have some questions. How do you help your team members stay ahead of that game, right? I mean, we're a society that has a great deal of access to information, both through your site about the products, through manufacturer sites and so forth. So a really educated consumer. And in order for your team members to be perceived as valuable in store, how do you help them stay on top of their game?
Well, it's a really good question, because that's quite a difficult challenge to rise up against. Is that just like the example you've shared? A salesperson standing in one of our stores doesn't know what the next customer is going to ask them, but that person might have been spending hours of reading, learning about this particular product that they've been considering. And in that moment, this team member who, there's 2,000 products in this store around them, suddenly needs to be an expert on that very, very specific product that you've just spent hours reading product reviews and Googling about and doing all the rest. And so, that's a huge bar for our team to try and to meet. And so it just goes back to why it's so important and why our team members are such an important point of difference for our business. We're very, very focused on making sure we're retaining and developing our team. And the only real way to solve some of that problem is just making sure we can keep people as we're investing in training and developing them, that over time, as the longer they're with the organisation, the more experience and knowledge that they can acquire. And so we're very proud of the fact that we've done a lot of work around retaining our team, and we've got a lot of long-serving people in our organisation. One of my favourite jobs to do as the CEO is to go around and hand out plaques when people reach certain service anniversaries. And, we've got quite a surprisingly large number of people in our business that have been here for 40 years or more. And given the organisation is only about 45 years old, I think that says a lot. And right across our store network, we've got such great tenure, and we work really hard on how we can make sure that our team members are highly engaged and that we're listening to what they're asking for to make sure that Barbeques Galore is a great place to work.
I think that's fantastic. There's so much talk of races to the bottom and price competition in certain areas. In order to defend against that higher level of service, the higher level of product knowledge and ability to advise and educate, I think really helps distinguish yourselves from competition. But that's 40 years is quite an innings. And I can say that by handing out a plaque, you're doing a much better job than some places. One of my prior employers, who shall remain nameless, we were acquired by this company. I've been 4 years and 9 months by the time we got acquired. So after 3 months, I received a workflow message saying I could log into the internal portal and order myself a 5-year anniversary gift. Not really the people touch that you're bringing to the equation there, Angus.
Well, look, I would say is that it's a real. I feel a real responsibility to sort of treasure that. That is such a. When we've got these people that have invested such a large part of their lives in being part of our business and being part of our brand, I think there's a real responsibility on me as the leader of the organisation to make sure that we celebrate and recognise that. And there are some tremendous people in this business with some amazing knowledge and expertise and passion that is just such a special part of our brand.
I'm going to put you on the spot again. Sorry. I am interested. I'm always interested in somewhat substantiated, somewhat opinionated views of the future. And I don't need to go all Space Odyssey on you, but looking forward through your lens as CEO of Barbeques Galore, what's exciting to you in terms of new opportunities, directions for the business, the way that you've described setting this foundational platform and obviously a very strong culture within your organization. Any kind of bright sparks without giving too much away that gets you excited at the moment?
Well, I think the first thing is just to consider, how retail is changing. And I think there's this sort of separation of the industry into two groups, which is at one end of the spectrum is that hyper-convenient, frictionless, retail experience where for those more commodity type purchases, it's about making it as painless as possible. And so I think about things like Amazon Prime, I just want to make sure I never run out of laundry powder. I don't want to think about it. I just want it to turn up, and that's as much cognitive power as I want to put into that. Whereas at the other end of retail, in that space that we play, this is where it's about somebody's passion, somebody's thing that they really care about and they're really invested in. And it's actually a really exciting part of retail to be. The place that I think you don't want to be is stuck in the middle there. And that's the part of retail that I think things are going to get really, really hard. And that's in that sort of jack of all trades space. Whereas I think where we play and where we're excited to really lean into is in that passion end of the market, getting people excited about and engaged and inspired to really enjoy all the best that our category can bring. So I think that gives us a great opportunity. In terms of where the market will go is, okay, we've got that separation of the market into sort of two different areas. When I think about our part of retail, that continued innovation around experience and how AI plays a role in it, I think is a really interesting space, and particularly what that can do in terms of augmenting the expertise and knowledge of our team members, I think is really quite powerful. And so there's a huge opportunity around that. And I don't know that many of us have really figured out exactly how that's going to work, but you've got to say that there's a massive opportunity in that, as well as just the continued development and innovation of the products and of our category. And so what we get excited about doing is looking at new technologies that are emerging and how we can bring those to market and be first to market with those in Australia. And so there's lots of things people are doing now, and Internet of Things is obviously something that's been developing greatly, where people are looking at the ways that they can have tech integrate with their products. And we've had some really tremendously successful product launches in the last couple of years where people are using, Bluetooth enabled barbecues to help control the cooking process, and how that really unlocks the opportunity for our category and really broadens the addressable market. And so that's making, that really more complicated part of the category around cooking over charcoal or wood-fired cooking now easier than it's ever been, and that's being enabled by technology. So there's lots of exciting opportunities on the horizon there, as well as also, what that means in terms of how we can improve business process and the way that technology can help transform that and have our team members spend more time talking to customers and less time in the background, doing things, managing processes.
Fantastic. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I think a really great balance between, how technology can help, but really that human element and that culture that you've built at Barbeques Galore. I totally agree with you that polarization of retail is where the fertile soil is, if you will. I share your fear for the middle ground, those that really don't have a point of difference, that are reselling commodity products, for example. So I wish you all the best. I'm sure your business will continue to go from strength to strength. And thank you very much for sharing your time with us today, Angus.
That's fantastic, Jamie. It's been great to chat.